football fans, welcome inside the set of Gridiron Glory. I'm Blake Brody. It's week 3, and while some teams continue to tune up for conference play, others already full swing into conference action. Whatever the meaning behind your team's game tonight, the importance of winning, well, that always stays the same. The importance of winning for our West Virginia teams is huge. With no conference affiliation, playoff points are on the line from week 1 to the very end of the season. Sitting at 1-1 through 2 weeks, the Parkersburg South Patriots. All over our West Virginia teams, Katie Doubt. Katie, Parkersburg South had a bye week to sit on a week 1 victory. They're looking to make it 2 in a row tonight, but they ran into a very tough Morgantown team.
Absolutely, and it's hard to keep that momentum going, and winning is huge for these West Virginia teams. I talked with Coach Bolin this week, and he said that his team had been doing everything they can to stay positive, knowing that Morgantown Mohegans would be a tough team to beat. And even with their positive attitude, the Parkersburg South Patriots couldn't pull it off this week. They started the game with the possession, but lost it very quickly. In Morgantown's first possession, number 35, Jelon Thomas, takes a handoff to the 28 from junior quarterback number 15, Mark Johnson. Johnson had some trouble throwing the ball, forcing the Mohegans to punt. Ron Vinter makes a nice punt. South has control of the ball for a couple of seconds, but then, they fumble it, and Morgantown gets possession and pretty much keeps it for the rest of the game. Not at all. The South fumble leads to the first touchdown of the game by Morgantown, with Thomas running it in with less than 2 minutes left. They keep control in the second. Senior 44 Evan Hamilton, who had 6 carries on the game, is of course the carrier and gets to Mohegan's second touchdown. Finally, South gains control for the first and only time in the game with a beautiful pass from senior QB Tyler Bolin to Braxton Johnson, who's getting 19 and had 3 catches in the game. And Bolin turns around and has a second pretty pass to DeAndre Price for the 17-yard touchdown. But that doesn't last for long. QB Mark Johnson takes control again for Morgantown, gains 8, but does get tackled by South junior Cox, which clearly upsets Johnson, who turns around and throws a nice pass to Jelon Thomas for their 3rd touchdown, ending the first half at 21-7. Final Morgantown 28, Parkersburg South 7. They had a good game. The Mohegans, a lot bigger than P South. I mean, it was obvious. They're a lot bigger. You can look at the stats. I mean, they ran for 332 rushing yards. Man,
that says a lot about how this game went. Obviously, Parkersburg South couldn't match up with their line, it looks like, tonight. Morgantown ran all over. It looks like Parkersburg South really wasn't ready for Morgantown's running game tonight.
I hate saying this, but their defense looked like butter. I mean, they just plowed through them. It wasn't good. You could tell they're a less experienced team. You really could.
Well, I know Coach Bolin's mantra through the bye week was just to stay positive week in and week out. And now, after a loss like this, really important for Parkersburg South to stay positive because every week's important.
Absolutely. Football's half of a head game, and, Coach Bolin's always just trying to keep it positive.
Okay, well, hopefully Parkersburg South will get it turned around. Thanks a lot, Katie.
Absolutely.
Through 2 weeks, Alexander has the look of a team ready to contend with Nelsonville York for a TVC Ohio championship. The Spartans have cruised to 2-0 while averaging over 50 points a game. Joined now on the set with Mark Pierce, our Alexander reporter. He was at their matchup with Unioto tonight. Mark, talk to us about this offense Alexander's had, because they've been unstoppable through 2 weeks.
Unstoppable is a perfect term to use, Blake. This team has scored 103 points in the first 2 games alone. The defense has only given up 28 total points this year. They've had to replace running back Cody Lawson and quarterback Michael Chapman from a year ago, but Trey Bennett and Tyler Smith have stepped up big. Tonight they were taking on a Unioto team that has had trouble putting points on the board. Alexander head coach Sharon Arno has them playing at a crisp and confident level, but he had to get in their grill early to get them to respond. Spartan quarterback Trey Bennett would respond and hooks up with Gage Miller on the slant route. 73 yards later, he's in the end zone and 6 points are on the board.
We might see that play later on tonight.
You might see it. Spartan quarterback Trey Bennett, the extra point was good, and Miller received some well-deserved love on the sidelines, but he wasn't done. Bennett calls his own number, picks up 20 yards. Now it's Miller time. Bennett drops back, finds a streaking Miller on the sidelines, diving catch into the end zone, puts the Spartans up 21-0 right before the half. Get to know Brandon Kaiser. Trey Bennett knows him real well and finds him for a first down. Watch that tough run, Blake.
Man.
Toughness was the key tonight. Jacob Harvey comes in and strips Unioto quarterback Storm Cottrill, giving the Spartans offense the ball on the 1-yard line. From there, Trey Bennett finds the end zone again, putting the Spartans up 28-0. The Spartans defense was all over the Sherman's offense, causing 3 turnovers, and those turnovers led to points just like this one. Trey Bennett jets into the end zone from 23 yards out. It puts the nail in the coffin. The Spartans team just looked too much for the Unioto Shermans. The cheerleaders looked a little bit stronger than the Unioto offense. You see the stats, 107 yards for Gage Miller. He had an all-star performance and really put the team on his back tonight, Blake.
Absolutely, and we talked about the offense being so dominant through 2 weeks, but they brought the defense to the table tonight.
Right, as I mentioned, 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions. Jacob Harvey had a huge fumble that fumble caused and recovered by himself, set up a score. If Alexander is going to compete with Nelsonville York and the Athens Bulldogs in the TVC Ohio, the passing game has to be on fire like it was tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of that passing game, we've already talked about Trey Bennett through the first couple weeks. He's been dominant, but that connection with Gage Miller was huge tonight.
Right, 107 yards for Gage Miller, and it was actually all of Trey Bennett's passing yards. Miller found the end zone twice, and really he was just too much. He found the gaps in the defense, and he just looked really good tonight.
Oh, man, Alexander as a team looked really good tonight. Man, this TVC Ohio race could shape up to be a great one. Mark, you're going to be covering it the whole season for us. Good stuff tonight, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, dude.
Well, be sure and stick around for coverage of our game of the week, an intriguing matchup in the NBL between Philo and New Lexington. Both teams come rolling into this matchup after momentum-boosting Week 2 victories. We have the highlights and analysis of this one later on in the show, so stick around. Now, over in the SEOAL, it's been a rough start to the season for Portsmouth. After a close loss to Wilmington in the season opener, the Trojans lost to rival Portsmouth West last week, 26-13. Our SEOAL reporter, Josh Hunsberger. Josh, now, Portsmouth's looking for their first win of the season tonight, and what's been their most glaring problem as far as getting that first win?
Well, turnovers, definitely. They've had 7 turnovers in the first 2 games, and you know, you can't win close games if you can't even hold on to the ball. Now, tonight, the Trojans played host to the Wheelersburg Pirates, and the last time they came to town, they embarrassed the Trojans with a 68-14 blowout. Coach Clifford said if his boys couldn't get excited for this one, then they might as well just start playing flag football. Now, Blake, I love the atmosphere down here tonight. Within 10 minutes of being there, the cheerleaders gave me some flowers, bringing out the eyes a little bit, loving it. Just the 3rd play of the game here, Alex Shears rolls out to the left and be stripped by primetime Dion McKinley. Portsmouth would hop on it, get the fans going, but just 2 plays later for the Trojans, Jordan will roll out to the right here, and you know what? Shears wants to play a little bit more offense. He takes this one for himself, goes back a little bit of the way, and gets a drive going for them. Now, later on that drive, Shears is making a great play in the backfield here. Dodges one, dodges another, rolls out, looks like the play of his life, but then tips off the hands of his receiver, and remember this name, Zade Whitley, comes up with the interception. He'd go back a few yards, be tackled, but remember that name. And the fans in Portsmouth are loving it, especially my dude Muscles down here. Stay excited, Buff Stuff, because after a Pirates touchdown, Zade Whitley says if you don't know the name, now you know. He takes this kick return 81 yards back to the house, making dudes look silly.
Look at those moves.
And this is before Portsmouth had 1 single yard of offense yet. Just impressive. Look at him go down the sideline, pure speed. That's what Portsmouth's all about, is speed out there. As you look at the stats here, Shears played well for Wheelersburg, excuse me. But they went into halftime 7-7, but Portsmouth couldn't hang with the strength of Wheelersburg in the second half. Lost this one 28-19.
You know, they couldn't hang with them, and what you said going into the highlights was that they couldn't turn the ball over, but more turnovers again tonight.
Yep. That's exactly what it was, man. They had 2 in the first half. They had 2 the first 20 minutes we had been there. They already had 2 turnovers, and Wheelersburg capitalized on those. So if Portsmouth can't get those handled, then I don't know how they're going to hang in the SOAL.
It's tough to overcome turnovers, no doubt about it. They now fall to 0-3, but if Chillicothe reminded us of anything in the SEOAL last season, it's that once conference play comes around, that's when things start turning around.
Definitely.
Is there still hope for Portsmouth in the SEOAL?
I think there's definitely still hope for Portsmouth because, you know, they have the speed, like I was saying. They have the speed to hang with anybody in the SEOAL. The thing that they need to do is establish a throwing game. Mason Jordan is an agile quarterback, but if they can establish a throwing game with him, keep some defenses honest instead of just committing to the run all the time, I think they'll be just fine in SEOAL.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that as the season goes on. Hopefully Portsmouth will turn it around and make the SEOAL a very interesting conference. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
Hey, football fans, if you're on Twitter and Facebook, be on the lookout for Gridiron Glory. Follow us at Gridiron Glory on Twitter for score updates around the region on Friday nights and for links to our coverage throughout the week on WOUB.org. And if you like our Facebook page, you could become our next Facebook Fan of the Week. Winners are invited to our Player of the Year award ceremony at the finale at the end of our season. Also, be sure and check out our website at WOUB.org, as we are going to update it with fresh content every day. Well, it's Fan of the Week time, and so far through 2 weeks, the atmospheres I've been around have been unbelievably receptive and full of energy. But tonight, I was in Gloucester for Trimble's matchup with South Gallia, and it took a little warming up from the Tomcat fans before I found this week's Fan of the Week. You guys are now on the hot seat here. Fans of the Week. Or just indifferent completely. Just completely indifferent. Doesn't matter at all. Can you give me just a resounding, yeah, they're going to beat the Rebels?
Yes, they're going to beat the Rebels.
Okay. That's something. I mean, it's a start at least. We heard it. We heard all about you and your red mohawk, man. That's crazy.
Thank you.
That's awesome, though. Now, is this something that you keep on a daily basis, or is this just because of the game tonight?
I always have this.
Always have this. So you are a Tomcat spirit through and through. That's good to see. That's good to see.
If you want to see a student section and the best cheering section, you're going to want to be right here with the band.
The band.
The band.
The band had a lot of spirit when we came here originally.
I'm facting a win tonight. The Cats are going to win.
Tonight. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The taco in the bag, the #1 seller here at Gloucester Stadium. Thank you. Now, my favorite part of it, actually getting to try it. It smells heavenly. Splendid. The search for our Week 3 Fan of the Week took a little while here in Gloucester, but when we saw Brandon and the red mohawk, it was game over for us. We found it right then and there. And Brandon, I'm happy to announce that you are our Week 3 Gridiron Glory Fan of the Week. Brandon, keep that mohawk going for the rest of the season, man. That's a great look for you. After last week's loss to Wahama in our Game of the Week, the Tomcats return home looking for their first win of the season. With the resurgent 2-0 South Gallia Rebels waiting on them, a Week 3 victory will be anything but easy. Joined now by our Hawking reporter Nick Hurst. Trimble's looking for their first win of the season. What is it going to take for them to get that first win?
Well, they need to get Austin Keefe going in a running game. He has been shut down in his first 2 games. However, he's been hurt since 2-a-days, and Coach Phil Ferris wasn't sure if he was going to be ready for tonight's game. Keefe was in the lineup, though, and the Tomcats were ready to go. But early on, they had some fumbles. They had 3 fumbles in the first quarter, and there was a fumble right there on their first possession. But ensuing possession for South Gallia, fullback Ethan Spurlock gets the 32-yard touchdown that would put South Gallia up 6.
Good start for the Rebels.
Yeah, absolutely. And Austin Keefe, we talked about him needing to have a big game, and he would. Austin Keefe gets a 20-yard run right here. He would not score on the play. Justin Jewell would, and that would tie the score, at 6-6. South Gallia attacking again, though. Corey Hanner on a 16-yard run. However, Trimble's D stops him, and Austin Keefe, there's a touchdown for him on a 6-yard.
That's a start for him.
Yeah, 12-6 at Trimble at that point, and South Gallia then trying to come back. Ethan Spurlock with a 16-yard run, but guess what? Trimble's defense steps up in the red zone again. Cyrus Jones is going to chase down Corey Hanner on the sack there.
Big play.
Yeah, big play. South Gallia would have to go for it on 4th down, but Hanner's pass is incomplete. There would be 2 more scores in this one, but Trimble wins 18-14.
Big first win for them.
Absolutely.
All right, well, like you said, Nick, that the running game needed to get going for Trimble to be successful. Austin Keefe had a big game. Running game got going. What do you know? They got their first win.
Yeah, and he looked great out there tonight. I didn't see really his injury problems. I think he looked good tonight. He had 22 carries for 117 yards, and they need that kind of production for him all season.
Absolutely. Now, South Gallia, they came into the game 2-0, a real surprise. And although they lost tonight, they got roughed up by Trimble last year. The fact they kept it close tonight, I think it still says something about them turning it around this season.
Yeah, they hung with them. They had some turnovers as well, but I think there could be a team that could stay with in the TVC Hawking race. They got a big game against Miller next week, so that could be another game that decides whether they can be a TVC Hawking contender.
Okay, well now, where do these 2 teams go from here? I know Trimble gets their first win of the season. South Gallia loses their first game. Where do they go from here?
Well, Trimble's going to play Cold Grove next week, and then from there it's all TVC Hawking games, so that's going to be a big thing for them, getting these TVC Hawking games down the stretch. And then as for South Gallia, They got a tough game against Miller. Miller has been playing some tough games this year, so it's going to be tough.
Okay, well, certainly tough throughout the TVC hockey for both these teams. Tribble gets the win. They're back on the right track. Thanks a lot, Nick.
Yep.
Oh, the Wellston Golden Rockets hosted their first home game of the season tonight, and fans there probably noticed some major changes from the moment they approached the stadium. Gridiron Glory reporter Kristen Walters found out how that newly polished facility came to be.
Yeah, Blake, you know, it's not that uncommon for a football team to have their field redone or their locker room updated, but what is uncommon is when ESPN helps you do it.
Last year's shining moment for the Golden Rockets was finally snagging that win over Jackson. This year's shining moment, snagging ESPN's Rise Up series to help renovate their athletic facilities.
Then I told my husband about it. It was on January 4th, and told my husband about it. He said, Karen, don't even get your hopes up. Of course I did. And within a couple of days, we had a phone call, and then they were out here to visit the next week.
The project included transforming the weight room and the locker room. The coaches' offices and equipment room were also revamped, and new sod and a working sprinkler system were added to the field. Those, among many other renovations, have made the stadium certainly something to be proud of.
Yeah, the renovations were probably beyond what I ever expected them to be.
The ESPN Rise Up series may have instigated all of these renovations, but not a single one of them would have been possible without the support of the community. And it's pretty clear that this community isn't lacking any support for their Golden Rockets.
What we're really excited about is the renovations are centered so much for the athletes, for the kids. Of course, the fans are enjoying it. The whole community has joined it, and this community has been needing something to pull us together, and this was a real good start.
Donations from community members helped add finishing touches to the renovations, but the real grunt work was done by Bryn Mawr Construction of Jackson.
Bryn Mawr Construction has its roots in our community and has grown from this community, and they've given back, and I think that's what's most important.
With the help of ESPN's series and the community, the Golden Rockets now have a shiny new facility to help them rise up.
And it's important to note that Wellston was one of only 4 schools in the entire nation selected to be on the Rise Up series. It's also the first of the episodes to air, which will be on Tuesday, September 13th, obviously on ESPN. But if you want to find out more before then, all you have to do is go to woub.org/gridiron. Blake, that's all from me. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Chris. And those new facilities over there in Wellston look great. Well, after 6 straight league championships, it shouldn't be surprising to see Nelsonville York at 2-0. But the way they've taken teams to the proverbial woodshed the way they have, that's been impressive no matter how you slice it. Now we welcome in our TVC Ohio reporter, Frank Bum. Frank, Nelsonville York dominant through 2 weeks, and with winless Bern Union coming to town, business as usual for the Buckeyes, right?
Well, I certainly thought so, Blake, but Nelsonville York coach Dave Boston told me earlier in the week that Bern Union was a team that, quote, if they put it together, they can beat anybody. But the Buckeyes aren't just anybody. They're a juggernaut team crushing their opposition. Before the game, there was a nice tribute to the 9/11 victims, but the Buckeyes, they just want to play football, and nobody plays football for the Buckeyes better than Dustin Young. 2-yard touchdown rush early in the first, power game, what we've come to expect from that young man. Then Nathan Dean, he rolls out. He's going to find Kyle Freer for 32 yards. Going to dive over a Bern Union defender. 13-0. The extra point was no good. 5:51 in the first. Then Nathan Dean, he's throwing the ball excellent all over. 10 for 11.
Wow, that's efficient.
And Mark Carter for a 19-yard pass. Dave Boston, he's got to like how his offense is doing, but his defense also came to play. Dakota Hawk tackles JT George for a 3-yard loss, and then after a failed fourth down conversion, Dustin Young, I mean, what else can you say about him? 70 yards for the touchdown. Young thanking his blockers, thanking his fullback Perkins, and then Nathan Dean throws this bomb. Great catch by Daniel Klein. Just too strong, too fast, too tall for the defender.
Everything going right for Nelson.
Everything going for right for them. And then Perkins, he's going to get a little fullback love. 2 yards out, 33-0 with 6:52 left in the second quarter. And the game was over long before that. They win 57-0.
Ho-hum, another shutout for Nelsonville York. Another blowout, I should say. Boy, they look good. Now, where do we begin on what went right tonight for Nelsonville York? Seems like everything did.
Well, to be perfectly honest, where would I start? Dustin Young, 202 yards on 10 carries for 4 touchdowns. He now has 11 touchdowns through 3 games. And then Nathan Dean was an efficient passer, 10 for 11. It's incredible what they're doing statistically and when you watch the game itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Nelsonville York now 3-0 in the season and look dominant while doing it. Frank, we look forward to this TBC Ohio race that's shaping up later on in the season. Nelsonville York looks great. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Well, extra point time of the show now, where we take you out to 2 games and bring you highlights in 1 minute's time. We're going to start out in Wellston, debuting their newly renovated stadium. Nick Clegg carries the ball here and fumbles. Actually gains them a few yards there. It's not a bad play. Brandon Taylor takes the next play, runs for what looks like a 70-yard rush, but slows up. And it's tackled inside the 5, you see here. Looks like he might have got injured. I'm not sure what the deal was there, but he slows up and gets tackled. Brandon Taylor would eventually reach the goal line, though. Gallia closes out a close one, 14-12. Now we go out to Viking Stadium, where Jackson and Benton County matched up. Nathan Parks intercepts a pass here. Ironman around on the next possession. Morgan Landrum breaks a 38-yard run. Everything going right for Jackson running game this season. They're doing really well. A few plays later, Landrum delivers the Peyton Hillis-style run here right up Benton County. Jackson all had some luck on their side with a tip pass caught in the end zone. You see here, tipped in right into Jackson's hands. 42-0 Jackson. Philo and New Lexington coming to tonight's game of the week, unbeaten through 1 game in the MVL. With Sheridan and Tri-Valley looming, this game has the feel of an early season elimination game in the conference race. Philo comes in off a last-second thrill ride victory over Crooksville. New Lex comes in off 2 commanding wins. Our MVL reporter is this man, Glenn Janos. But before we get into the chat, here's our mini pack for you. We just wanted to pump you up a little bit before we broke down the highlights of this game. Glenn, the Panthers have looked great through 2 weeks. Philo, meanwhile, coming in off a great last-second victory. This has been the biggest test for New Lex tonight. How did it go for them?
Well, I mean, New Lex, they've been rolling through their competition so far, outscoring them 69-12 in the first 2 games. And well, Philo, they're coming off that amazing comeback victory against Crooksville last week. So, I mean, you know it's going to be a big game. Both teams are really trying to make a statement early on. New Lex, they only won 2 games last year. So they really, if they win tonight, it will be 3 wins, more than last year. So it's something they really are striving for. If they don't have that, I mean, it's something, you know, the sooner they get to 3 wins, the better.
Okay, well, unfortunately, we can't bring you the highlights of this game tonight. New Lex wound up beating the Philo Electrics pretty handily tonight, and an impressive win at that. Glenn, talk to us about this win for New Lex. It seems like they put it all together tonight.
Yeah, well, tonight it was a very balanced showing by the offense for the Panthers. They had 176 yards passing, 165 rushing. So whenever you're balanced like that, it's always a good thing. Special teams was doing it. They blocked a punt. They were causing turnovers, forced a fumble early in the first quarter. Then the second half, TJ Abrams intercepted the ball, took it 99 yards to the house. So really everything really meshed together. And then another positive, in the first 2 games they had 8 fumbles,
right?
Which that's almost disastrous. Somehow they were able to overcome that. Tonight they only had 1. So they're holding on to the ball better, which is always a good thing. I mean, whenever you lose the ball, it's really hard to stay dominant.
Okay, well, they overcame the fumble problem tonight. They beat a good Philo Electric team, a team that came in with a lot of momentum, so another good win for New Lexington. They're now 3-0 on the season with 3 very convincing victories. Are they now a legitimate contender in the MVL?
Well, if their defense keeps playing the way they have, that's something they need to keep it up. Going into the game, they only allowed 196 yards through the first 2 games. So Coach Bill Nutt was really happy. He said there's almost nothing he could say they had to improve on defense. And some, you know, coaches most of the time, they're nitpicking at everything. And tonight it was much of the same. They did give up 220 yards, which seems like a lot compared to what last week they only gave up 79 to John Glenn.
But like we said, it was their biggest test, so you had to expect Philo to bring it tonight.
And they didn't really, allow Philo to threaten too much. There was a fumble early in the first that gave Philo short field position. And later in the second half, when it was really out of reach, Philo added on another score. But it was New Lex just owning the game.
All right, well, once again, we apologize for not being able to bring you the highlights of this one, but trust us, it was all New Lexington in this one. Thanks a lot, Glenn. Well, now that we've broken down New Lex's win over Philo, that does it for our coverage of this week's games. But before you turn your attention to Week 4, you got to get a second look at some of these standout moments from Week 3. It's top plays time, and this was by far our best week for top plays. Number 3, Nelsonville York quarterback Nathan Dean, a 37-yard pass to Daniel Klein. He just all over his corner there. Nelsonville rolls 57-0. Number 2, Alexander. Boy, Trey Bennett to Gage Miller. This might be a good connection the rest of the season. Might be a connection that keeps Alexander in this TVC Ohio race, maybe even wins it for him. 73 yards there. Alexander rolls tonight, 35-0. And at number 1, a kickoff from Portsmouth. This is Zade Whitley. Remember that name right here. Takes it left. Doesn't like what he sees, so he decides, I'll just reverse field and take it all the way to pay dirt here. Great play for him. Portsmouth gets the top play, but Wheelersburg gets the victory. Well, now that you've seen our top plays, we can officially close the book on Week 3. As you prepare for next Friday night, here's what to expect from Gridiron Glory in Week 4. Week 3's in the rearview mirror as Gridiron Glory cruises into Week 4. The season is still young, but a lot's on the line in these Week 4 matchups. Chillicothe and Athens renew their age-old rivalry when the two square off at New Rudder Field. The Cavaliers look to turn their season around after another tough start, while the Bulldogs look to keep up their winning ways and head into TVC Ohio play with a full head of steam. Staying in the Ohio, we get our first look at Meggs as they host Minford. Crossing into the Hocking, Fedhawk hosts Southern in an early season clash of TVC Hocking teams looking to stamp themselves into the league race. Sheridan's iron grip on the MVL appears to have carried into this season. Looking to halt their momentum is Crooksville, but it won't be easy at Paul Culver Jr. Stadium. The Patriots of Parkersburg South host Musselman with playoff points on the line in West Virginia. And our game of the week pits our last 2 SEOAL champions when Jackson visits Logan. Determining this year's champ could very well come down to this pivotal game. That'll do it. Make sure you join us next Friday night as we'll bring you action from week number 4 that are sure to pack some punch. We hope you'll tune in next Friday night at 11:30 to find out which teams will storm into conference play after a Week 4 win. So for the entire crew here, I'm Blake Brody reminding you there's nothing better than Friday nights in Gridiron Glory.
Support comes from the Holzer Center for Joint Replacement, orthopedic surgeons offering advanced techniques including computer-navigated surgery of the hip, knee, and shoulder. Serving the tri-state, it's the Holzer Center for Joint Replacement. And by Precision Imprint, specializing in custom printing and embroidering for businesses, schools, and organizations year-round. Precision Imprint at 740-592-5916 or on the web at precisionimprint.com. 26 East State Street in Athens. And by Dials Hearing Center, opening up a world of sound with professional audiology services in Athens and Jackson. Dials Hearing Center, 740-594-3571 or 800-237-7716. Helping people hear since 1949. And by Donato's of Athens, featuring pizza, subs, and salads along with catering. Located at 668 East State Street in Athens or by phone at 740-592-5049. Information online at www.donatos.com.